I have spent over $300,000 on audio equipment only in the last 10 years or so. From McIntosh Monoblocks and Wilson audio speakers to the most extreme gear that my budget could afford. The single most important upgrade I've ever done cost me less than a few $1,000s and had nothing to do with any piece of gear. Today, I'm going to be talking about something the dealers would never want you to know. Hello boys and girls, and welcome to the Sound Lab. I am KD, and everything you see behind me is bought with my own money. No sponsors, no free gear, just 25 years of real-world Audiophiles experience. Today, we are talking about your listening room and why it is responsible for over 50% of what you are hearing while you are enjoying your system. This isn't theory. I've tweaked with my gear for many years in different listening circumstances, in general purpose and dedicated listening rooms, and the differences were staggering. The audio industry doesn't want you thinking about this first because, simply put, they cannot sell you a room. Let's start by identifying the problem. Here what happens to most audiophiles, including me early on. We start with the gear. We buy our basic gear and we are putting it wherever is convenient. A secondary room, a basement, or in some occasions in a corner in our main living room. Then we start detecting problems and we're trying to fix these problems by gear upgrades. The bass is too boomy. We're thinking of new amplifiers. The mid-range vocals are a little bit too distant. We're considering new speakers. Or the high-end sounds too harsh. Maybe it's time for new tube amplifiers. I believe that you have all experienced this somehow. Now, I've spent years doing exactly this. Keep upgrading in order to treat specific problems that I was hearing. After some times, as you become more experienced with your sound system, you are trying to treat the details that annoy you the most. And normally, you do this through the gear. My first real setup was about $10,000, and I have put it in a very awkwardly shaped, 10 meters wide by 7 meters long listening room. In the beginning, my gear to my ears was impressive. I was so proud about it that I kept on inviting people to show them around. The reality was that after some time, I started experiencing problems with my sound, and I entered the rabbit hole of gear upgrades to improve the things that were annoying me. What I wasn't understanding is that how could my gear sound so different in my room compared to the listening rooms that I have auditioned this year before I bought it. The differences were staggering. The room was not just affecting the sound, it was actually destroying it. Reflections were creating comb filtering, standing waves were creating massive bass peaks and nulls, while early reflections were smearing the soundstage. No amount of gear was going to fix this type of problems. Now let's talk about my personal experience through my personal journey. My first real wake-up call came when I decided to upgrade from my Clips Reference Premium series to Bowers & Wilkins 800 series D4. It was always my dream to go up the ladder and be a proud owner of Bowers & Wilkins Diamond series. So I accumulated the funds that were required, I did extensive listening on my dealer, and I finally purchased the 800 series. I brought them to my house, and the first thing I noticed was that my dealer has cheated me. These speakers destroyed my sound. It was impossible to hear them. They were too harsh, the soundstage was gone, a lot of the elements that I was hearing with the clips were no longer there. When I called my dealer, his first reaction was to talk about gear, and I don't blame him, but gear was his answer. What I couldn't realize at that moment was that although the equipment and the gear was true, what was more true was that the Bowers & Wilkins 800 series is a step up the ladder. There are more revealing speakers that will make the problems sound even bigger. It was a little bit later and about $10,000 thinner for my pocket that I started experimenting and reading and studying about room acoustics. Paul McGowan and his channel was the initial influence to me. Then this was followed by many other channels of people that are providing this advice free and online, something that I'm trying to do as well, where I started taking acoustic treatment a little bit more seriously. Now, first came the speaker's positioning, and this is the first step that I recommend to anyone to do. On the Bowers & Wilkins, it was quite simple. I experiment a little bit with toe in, toe out, the distance from the wall and the distance from the sides. I know that this is not always very practical depending on your room. Most of us will use the living room as our listening room, and this has certain restrictions. Still, experimenting even on very small increments on positioning of your speaker costs nothing and can dramatically change the properties of your soundstage. I can only say that a properly positioned speaker is the difference between a $5,000 speaker and a $15,000 pair of speakers. So, the next thing that I did was addressing the reflection points. First, reflection points are the biggest problem, especially for me that my back seat was very close to the back wall. First reflection points require, most of the times, absorption panels, acoustic panels. What I did and what I recommend to you to do is try one step at a time. Addressing these first reflections can be either treated with absorption panels or diffusers. There are two schools here. The one school will tell you to go full diffusion, the other will tell you to go full absorption. Neither is correct. Each room has its own unique properties and you have to address them one piece at a time. What it worked finally for me was covering the back side of my wall and certain parts of my front wall with absorption panels with carefully positioned acoustic diffusers. And this is what makes it work. Now, the real transformation, however, and the real proof and the real evidence of everything that I said so far was when I finally decided and purchased a room perfect system by McIntosh. I purchased the McIntosh MEN 220. It's a Lindorff's implementation where practically it autocorrects all the deficiencies of your room. There is DRAC out there are other solutions. I decided to go with McIntosh. I'm a McIntosh boy, and I decided to go with the room perfect solution. Now, I did a test, and this is what I want to demonstrate to you today. Without the acoustic treatment in my room, the room correction, the MEN 220 had to do 25% correction of my room. When I installed again my acoustic treatment solutions to my wall, the room correction was only 7%. This is staggering. This is a colossal difference. And the only thing I really had to do was to play with my speakers and install for a few $1,000s or less some acoustic solutions. At this stage, I believe I have concluded that the room plays a big role in what you are hearing. Here is a good time to do a reality check. What most audiophiles refuse to accept is that the room is a component. And it's not only a component, it is probably the most important component because everything else has to work through it. Imagine it as your cabinet around your speaker drivers. The room is exactly the same. It's the cabinet that all the other components have to work through it. Now, we can have the most transparent electronics in the world, but if your room adds coloration, this is what you are going to hear. You can have the most accurate speakers with the best on and off axis response, but if your room is creating a 10 dB peak or null around 60 Hz, this is the frequency response that you are going to hear. The good news is that the room treatment is permanently and it will stay forever. It doesn't depreciate over time, and every time you're changing electronics or speakers, you are not losing value or you're not losing the benefit of the things that you have done before. Today, my system sounds dramatically better to what was sounding 14 or 18 months before I started doing my room treatments. And these changes stayed throughout all the upgrades that I have done. I optimized the room around my equipment. And this is what I recommend you to do as well. Now, let's sum it up, take it to 4 basic advices that I have for you, and conclude this video. As we have discussed so far, the first step always on my recommendation is to toy around with your speakers and your speaker's position. It costs nothing. You can experiment with it and you will hear audible differences pretty much immediately. Tow them in, tow them out, from the back walls and from the side walls, and reach to a level that you are unveiling elements into the soundstage that you are looking for. Step number 2, my recommendation is go with a budget of maximum $500 and implement some first reflection point acoustic solutions, absorption panels and diffusion panels, and these are very likely that will be a much bigger upgrade than any cable or gear upgrade to deal with the micro or macro issues that your room is giving you. Do not overdo it, piece by piece, step by step, and not more than $500 initially. Step number 3, my recommendation is to deal with this bass. Bass is extremely difficult and complicated. So, bass trapping on the corners, similar amount to the first reflection points, is critical at this stage. Experiment with a couple, and I strongly suspect that your low end will be cleaned up, it will be tighter, and will be far superior to any subwoofer integration that will be recommended to you. My 4th recommendation, and this is a controversial topic, is to measure your room. I went ahead with the McIntosh MEN 220 solution, Lindorf Room Perfect system. It is a little bit expensive, I wouldn't go that far. Find any REW software along with the microphone and measure your room. Identify the problems. Before you move ahead on investing on gear or cables or extensive acoustic treatment solutions, identifying the problems of your room and properly measuring your room. Most of the software is freeware and most of it is online and it's self-explanatory. So measure your room. This is my advice number 4. Now, do not overdo it and do it step by step. This is my recommendation. The biggest problem that you will have is overdoing it without measuring it and without doing it step by step. Absorption panel by absorption panel on different positions, similar for the diffusers, and only then you will have a proper picture of what you have treated and how you treated it. What most of the people do, the biggest mistakes that we all do, and I have done it most than others, is overdo it. And when you overdo it, your room becomes lifeless. It becomes dead. So you invested all this money on speakers, you invested all this money on gear, you bought all these absorption panels, and what you ended up with is a room that is lifeless. This is what overdoing acoustic treatment can do to you. So I will highlight this one more time, step by step, panel by panel, on different positions, install, measure, reapply, and your life will be happy. The audio industry wants you to upgrade your gear constantly, but the smartest audiophiles improve the room acoustics first. What's your room situation? Are you experiencing acoustical issues like the ones that I have described? Are you battling those with gear upgrades? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one of them and I reply when I feel that I can add some value. If this perspective helped you, subscribe for more unbiased audiophile content. In my next video, we will be comparing two budget-friendly streamers, and I'm sure that the results will surprise you. At least they surprised me. And remember, the gear serves the music, not the other way around. Thank you all for watching and see you in our next video.